Hello everyone, welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Fur Hire. So Fur Hire is an older archetype that is getting new support in the next upcoming core set, Burst Protocol. It's getting, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new cards. Five new cards. And they are incredible. They bring this deck to a whole nother level. And let me tell you, this deck is also so fun. I did not realize how fun this deck was until I started testing it. It is a blast to play. So anyway, let's get into it. So these first 9 cards that I have here are our 1-card starters. The most important card is Rex, and honestly, this is probably the most important card in the deck, other than our extra deck monsters. Rex can, on summon, search any Fur Hire spell trap from our deck to our hand. And then in the grave, if you control a Fur Hire during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can banish this card from the grave to target a card Fur Hire in your grave, and then add it to your hand or special summon if it was a monster. That's insane. This card is both a starter, because it gets you your spell traps, and an extender in the grave. It's also a dinosaur, notably, so you can get it off of Fossil Dig, so we have 6 copies of it. And then we have 3 more copies of it effectively with our quick play spell, Storm Fur Hire. This card allows you to, if you control no monsters, especially a level 4 or lower Fur Hire from your deck, then if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, you can summon another Fur Hire from your deck. So, and then if you discard a card to activate the effect of a Fur Hire, you can banish this from your grave instead of one of those cards. That's a nice bonus. But what is important to note is that the Fur Hire monsters go by a mechanic, at least most of them do, where if a Fur Hire is summoned, they can trigger their effects. If a Fur Hire is summoned while that monster is on the field, they can trigger their effects. So like Beat, Recon, and Donpa all work like this. Like Beat, for example, if a Fur Hire is summoned to your field while you control this monster, you can add a monster Fur Hire from your deck to your hand. So, notably, this being able to summon a Fur Hire monster and then summon another one means that it will trigger monsters like Beat. So this card is phenomenal, and it is 3 more copies of Rex, therefore being a 1-card combo. The only downside to this card is it does lock you into Fur Hires, but I'm going to be honest, that doesn't really matter. It matters a little bit because you can't make Almirage, which you do use in your 1-card combos, but because Storm lets you summon Rex without using your normal, you don't really need the Almirage. After that, we've got our 2-card starters. We've got 3 Beat, 3 Rex, and 3 Fandora the Fearsome Flying Fortress. Incredible name there. These 3 cards, all full combo if you open any other Fur Hire monster. So Beat can, we already went over its second effect, but its first effect is that during the main phase, you can special summon a monster Fur Hire from your hand. So you can summon a monster Fur Hire, and then trigger its effect to search another monster, and then you can link them off for your link 2s, which get you into your full combo. Then there's Rex, Gale Fur Hire. You can reveal this card in your hand to summon a monster Fur Hire from your hand, and then summon this card. So if you reveal something like a Beat, you can summon the Beat and then summon the Rex, which will trigger the Beat. That's really nice. And then this card also has a really broken effect that if a card is added from the deck to your opponent's hand by a non-Fur Hire card effect and you control another Fur Hire, you can draw a card. So let's say your opponent Molcharmies you. You also are going to get to draw every time they draw off of a Molcharmy. This card is hilarious. And notably, this deck also, a lot of its end board is just drawing cards. Their boss monster allows you to draw 3 cards in your opponent's turn. Rex also letting you draw cards is kind of crazy. It means you can potentially draw like anywhere from 3 to like 6 cards in your starting turn. Or not on your starting turn, but on your opponent's turn, which we are on a decent amount of hand traps, so we will probably be able to find some of those in our several draws. Then there is Fandora the Fearsome Flying Fortress. This has some cute effects, like your monsters gain 300 for each Fur Hire with different names. And if a Fur Hire monster you control is destroyed by card effect, you summon a monster Fur Hire from your deck. But the important effect in this card is that during the main phase, you can add a monster Fur Hire from your deck to your hand, then discard a card. So basically, this is Rhoda. It just comes with the downside of discarding a card, but that is actually a benefit sometimes because it searches and then discards. So you can potentially search something like a one of your names and then discard it and then summon it back with Rex, whereas otherwise you wouldn't be able to get it out of the hand, which is really nice. After that, we have our non-starter for hires. Technically, Recon and Dompa are both sort of starters in the same way that Rex is, or not Rex, Beat, because they also allow you to summon a for hire from your hand, but they are just worse than Beat. So these are basically just all the one-ofs in the deck. Raphael is on special summon. You can activate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of monsters for hire you control with different names, and then add one of them to your hand. And then when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can discard a card for hire to negate the activation. So it's a monster negate, and it gives you a +1 when you summon it. A really, really nice card. Just a good use card to have in the deck for sure. And then Wiz is a on summon gains 500 life points for each monster for hire you control with a different name. Wow. So cool. When your opponent activates a spell or trap effect, you can discard a card for hire to negate the activation. That's the actual reason we play this card. It just allows you to have a spell trap negate while Raphael is your monster negate. And then we have Recon and Donpo, which are kind of two sides of the same coin. Both of them have the effect that Beat does to summon a for hire monster from your hand. And then they also have an effect that triggers when a for hire is summoned to your field while you control those monsters. Recon allows you to pop a set card. Donpa allows you to pop a face-up card. These cards are super important because that draw 3 effect on our Link 3 only triggers if a card our opponent controls is destroyed. These two cards are how we're going to do it. Theoretically, you don't need to play Recon, but I like it in this format specifically because Draco Tail is so popular. So being able to pop a card your opponent sets off of a Draco Tail monster is pretty nice. It's just nice and decent to have. But you don't need to play this card. If you wanted, you could cut this for sure. But Donpa is 100% necessary. This card is going to be on your end board every single time. We then have one Mayhem for hire, which is just which just targets a for hire engrave and summons it back as a quick play spell. It's not bad to draw. You can have this as part of your end board. But more importantly, it enables your one card Rex combo because you can go normal Rex, get Mayhem, link into Almirage, summon back Rex with the Mayhem, and then you can link into one of your Link 2s and keep extending the combo from there. After that, we have the new trap card, Secret Technique for hire. It allows you to target face-up cards in the field up to the number of monsters for hire you control with different names, destroy them, or if you control a level 8 or higher or a Link 3 or higher for hire, you can banish them instead. So hypothetically, you can banish 2 to 3 cards, realistically, off of this card on your opponent's turn, which is insane. A target banish multiple cards is unreal. And then if a level 8 or higher and or Link 3 or higher for higher special summon in your field while this card is in the grave, you can add it back to your hand. So this card also loops itself, which is also really nice. It means you can theoretically do this every single turn, which is terrifying, to be honest. And then that's it for the main deck engine. After that is just non-engine. We've got 1 Called By, 3 Fua, 3 Ash, 2 Bell, 3 Veiler. The reason we are playing Veiler and not Imperm is that when we draw on our opponent's turn, we want to have the hand traps we draw be usable. The only exception is Fualos, but this card is just too good not to be playing. But Veiler allows us to just use it, whereas if we were to draw an Imperm, because we control cards, we wouldn't be able to use the Imperm from hand. And then we have 3 copies of Azuna and 1 copy of Lupus. The only extra deck monsters in this deck that really matter are the for hire extra deck monsters and the 1 Almirage. So you can run a card like Azuna no problem. And it's just a solid hand trap. You could run other cool things as well that are enabled by you not having to, by you having a very free extra deck. You could run Pot of Extravagance because there's really only 4 monsters in your extra deck that matter. So you could just run all of those at 3 and then draw 1 for each of them. And then not draw 1 for each of them. Have the resources in your extra deck to banish for the Extrav. And then you could also run Fallen and the Virtuous. Because you absolutely have the free space to play this card. And it only gets better next set with the new branded Synchro that allows you to theoretically get another removal off of this card. So that's cool. And now onto the extra deck. We'll start with the main boss monster of for hire, Fulgo. Fulgo can't be used as link material. It takes 3 monsters with different types, notably almost all of our fur hires are different types. The only ones that are the same are Donpa and Recon, and then the 2 Rexes are both dinosaurs. Fulgo is on summon. If this card is link summon, you can special summon a fur hire monster with a different type from the 3 monsters used for this card's link summon. This is almost always going to be with like beat with one of the Rexes and then like one of your link monsters, and none of them match the types of Donpa or Raphael or any of your cards that actually matter. So you're good. This should never be a problem. And then if a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can draw a card. Then if you control 3 or more fur hires with different names, you can draw 2 additional cards. So notably, you're going to be trying to always end on this, plus Donpa, plus a way to summon a fur hire on your opponent's turn to trigger Donpa. And then that will give you 3 fur hires as well. So that will also trigger Fulgo once you use the Donpa to then draw you 3 cards, which is insane. After that, we've got Keel, Shipwright for hire. This is probably the most important new card. This card takes 2 monsters of different types, and if it's link summoned, you can set a spell trap for hire or the field spell from your deck to the field. And then you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except monsters for hire. So it does lock you, but I mean, it had to. This card's unbelievable. That just gets you everywhere you could ever want. And then during your opponent's turn, you can banish this card from your grave to special summon a monster for hire from your hand. Then if your opponent controls a monster with the highest original attack in the field, you can summon an additional one. Notably, this is a quick effect, so you can use this whenever on your opponent's turn. That effect is really nice because since you're drawing so many cards in your opponent's turn, this allows us to get something like a Raphael or a Wiz that we draw off of our, or even like a Rex that we draw off of our draw 3. We can then summon it off of the Keel, so then we have more interactions. This card's incredible. This is like everything the deck could have wanted. It's perfect. Then we have 3 Donner, Dagger for hire. This card also takes 2 monsters of different types. Its first effect allows you to target a monster for hire you control and a monster your opponent controls and destroy them. That's what this card is used for generically most of the time, because you can target itself and another monster, so it's just like a removal spell. Which is fine, but the important effect for this deck is that you contribute a monster, summon a monster for hire from your hand or grave with a different name than the tributed monster, and then if you tributed a link monster, you can summon another monster. So realistically, you're going to always be having Donner tribute itself. So what's going to happen is you're going to link, say, the Seal and like Beat off for Donner, and then you're going to be able to use Donner to then summon back the Beat and the Keel, and you'll summon the Beat first so that the Beat can then trigger and then search another fur hire. This card's super important for allowing you to trigger those fur hire effects. This card's all 3 of these link monsters are super pivotal to this deck's game plan. We then have the 1 Almirage, which we just need to be linked so we can link off our Rex. We then have our canine targets. We have the 1 Ripper, the 1 Valon, the 1 Typhon, the 1 Zeus, and then we have 1 SP to round out the extra deck. And then in the side, I just have a few extra options you could play. There's Dyna Hero for hire, which on summon lets you banish cards from your opponent's grave up to the number of monsters for hire you control with different names. When you do this, if you summon this on your opponent's turn, you're probably going to be banishing anywhere from 3 to 4 or even 5 cards, which is a lot. That's a huge amount to banish. So against the right deck, this card can be devastating. It's just not applicable enough in enough matchups that I think it's worth it. It also, your opponent can't target monsters for attacks you control for hire except this one, which is cool. And then Philo is another of the fur hires that can summon another fur hire from your hand. Only this one's effect on when you summon one is that you can target a monster for hire in your grave to summon it back to the field, which is really nice. So it's just like cool recursion. I just didn't play it because I didn't think there was room in the deck, and it just wasn't necessary, but you could absolutely play this if you wanted. Then there is Rookie for hire, which I don't think is very good in the pure for hire deck, but I think this card is really interesting if you wanted to mix for hire with another strategy. Classically, Runic and Sprite were played with for hire because you could use this to tribute let's say the level 3 Runic monster, Runic Fusion to then summon your Rex from your deck, or you could tribute like a level 2 Munin or a Sprite monster to summon Beat from your deck. which is really cool. This card theoretically has a lot of really cool play with other strategies. It's a quick play, so you can use it to like tag out monsters that would be getting hit with an imperm or something. Really, really cool card. I just didn't think it fit into this list very well, but I think this card is definitely worth considering if you want to mix this deck with other strategies. And that's the list. Now we're going to get into the combos. All right, so we're going to start with a single copy of Rex. We're going to normal the Rex. Rex is going to get Mayhem, and then we're going to link Rex off for Almirage. Mayhem's going to summon back the Rex, and then we'll link them into Keel. Keel will set the field spell from the deck, and then the field spell will allow us to search our copy of Beat and then discard it. We can then use Rex to summon back that Beat, and then we can link the Beat and the Keel for Donner. Donner will then summon the Beat first, and then the Keel second, so we can trigger the Beat to search another Rex. Beat will then summon the Rex from hand. Notably, the reason we searched Rex is so that on our opponent's turn, we can use the Rex Grave effect to summon the Beat onto the field during our opponent's turn to trigger our Donpa. Speaking of which, we will then we'll then link into Fulgo, and then Fulgo will summon Donpa from the deck, and then that is the turn. That's all you gotta do. So now on our opponent's turn, we have a bunch of stuff we can do. And I will show off what that's going to look like. Our opponent's going to do something, and then when we want to, we can use our Rex to summon our Beat back from the grave. That will then trigger the Donpa, since we summoned a Furhire, to pop a card our opponent controls. That will then trigger the Fulgo. Oh, did not mean to do that. Trigger the Fulgo to draw 3, since we control 3 Furhires with different names. Then, let's say we draw into a Raphael or a Wiz, or the other Rex will also work. We can then use our Keel Engrave to summon out one of our monsters. Or if we want to wait for a little bit, the Keel could also summon back 2 monsters if our opponent has a bigger monster than 2,400. But obviously, if you don't want to wait, because to be fair, these are negates, and typically you want to summon negates very early on, so you can actually negate the cards you want to be hitting. You can just fire it immediately. Also, there's only like 5 monsters you can draw that this hits, so realistically, you're probably not going to draw multiples. It's possible, but not super likely. We'll then summon the Raphael, and then Raphael's effect on summon can trigger, and Beat will trigger since we summoned a Furhire monster, which is crazy. And then the Raphael will allow us to add one of the cards off the top of our deck. So looking at this, we went draw 3 and then added another card off of the Raphael. We had a pop off the Donpa. We went plus a million with this combo, and keep in mind it's a 1-card combo. A pretty consistent 1-card combo at that. This is really, really impressive, at least in my opinion. This board can also be very different depending on what matchup you need it for. Let's say you play against a back row deck, you can always get Recon. If you open more extenders, you could theoretically end on one of the other Furhire monsters that have interruptions on them, whether that's Rex, Raphael, or Wiz. You can just end on those as well. And the board can just keep getting better and better and better. We didn't even end on the trap with this combo. The trap is crazy. If you're able to get to the trap because you opened Mayhem, or you just have enough extenders that you don't need it. In fact, I think the Rex and Beat combos can probably get you there because you just have enough extenders. It's not necessary to search Mayhem, so you can instead search out the trap card. It's just crazy. It's crazy. This deck feels really, really good. It's really, really fun. It's really cool to play a deck that doesn't just end on a million negates, or end on a very uninteractive board. This deck ends on, frankly, not even that many interactions, but it draws into those interactions over the course of the game. And I just think that's really cool. I think this deck plays both low to the ground and kind of high ceiling, and that it can do a lot, but it isn't trying to lock your opponent out of the game, right? So that was Furhire. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This is probably going to be a shorter one, I imagine. But I want to also hear some feedback. I want to be making more of these style of videos in the future. I really enjoyed making the Aeneacraft one, and this one I'm also enjoying recording as well. It's just these are really interesting videos, and I think they're more helpful than just the average deck profile. But if you all feel differently, please let me know. I can always go back to the deck profile videos if that's what people prefer. I want to know what you people want. I want to know what people want so I can give the people what they want. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.